मुच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति।
Om Namah Shivaya. 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 Om Nam Om Namah Shivaya. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.
What a beautiful joy to be together, to be with you all. And what a beautiful joy to come together in yoga. I was saying just yesterday in the afternoon, there were these media people taking our interviews, and one of them asked if there was one line, one message that we could give, given everything that's happening in the world. Depression, anxiety, loneliness, addiction, wars, genocide, violence, harm, environmental destruction, planetary decimation of our forests. I mean, all of that, we know what's going on. And the interviewer asked if you could give like just one line, one message, one answer. And I said, do yoga. And I clarified, because otherwise people mean, they take it to mean stand on your head or just get on your mat and do some asanas vigorously or not so vigorously for 30 minutes or 60 minutes or 90 minutes. And it's wonderful for your body. I've got a deep asana practice. But what I meant by do yoga was not just do asana, but actually immerse yourself in the fullness of what the sage Patanjali, known as the father of yoga, gave us, which is these 8 limbs of yoga. And we're not going to go into that today because I want to talk about something else. But it's a beautiful place to begin, because if you look at the way that Patanjali gave us yoga, it begins having nothing to do with what your body's doing on a mat, nothing to do with the breath, nothing to do with a seated meditative practice. It's about how you live in the world. Non-violence. And that, of course, doesn't just mean don't, take guns or bombs out there and kill people. But it means how we speak to each other, how we speak to ourselves, the voices in our own heads. It means what we eat. It means what we buy. It means what we wear. It means how we are supporting systems of violence, how we speak to our children, what values we are giving. I mean, all of that. So it's a system of how we live. Don't steal, don't hoard. And of course, that doesn't just mean, don't grab somebody's handbag, but it also means don't steal someone's time. Like, don't sit around and gossip and waste your time or waste other people's time. So I love gathering in yoga because every single thing that we are suffering from today, from the deepest, most personal level to the vastest, most planetary level, actually can be prevented and fixed if we just do yoga. But the full 8 limbs, and we begin with how we live with ourselves, with others. We move through asana. We move through pranayama, then we start working with the mind, ultimately into meditation, ultimately into that union of samadhi. But you have in your hands a system that actually can heal and fix and prevent and cure every single thing that you are suffering from and that our planet is suffering from. So this is not just about we come together to do some sweating, do some stretching, do some breathing, do some talking, do some meditating, eat some good vegan food, and then we go home and wait for next year. It's actually about aligning us in a system of thought and a system of living that changes us. So with that, today we're talking about using the practice of yoga. Hence, I needed to help you understand what I mean by yoga, to work through trauma, to recover from trauma. Now, first of all, raise your hand if you identify as someone who has experienced or is experiencing trauma. So it's interesting. Look around. Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Look around. It's almost all of us. It's well over half. It's well over even 75%. We're up at like 85, 90%. And this is really important because life has become traumatic. And a lot of times people will say, well, what I've been through, I know it's not like real trauma and therefore I should be okay, therefore it shouldn't bother me. And it's really important to recognize that there's no box of trauma. There's no certification that you need to get that says, yes, stamp, okay, you have legitimately been traumatized, therefore you can feel like that. The way that a lot of us are just living these days, turning on our devices, watching the news, moving through a world that is more and more angry, more and more divided, feels traumatic. But trauma is something, regardless of what it is, it paralyzes us. And this is why I wanted to talk about it today, because I know from personal experience, trauma was the reason why I understood, why I was broken, paralyzed, addicted, depressed for so long. And it's the reason that so many people give for why they are unable to be healthy, to love, to serve, to stand up to the plate of their lives. So trauma has become kind of an umbrella excuse for why we are not living as the truth of who we are. And so we need to figure out, how do we not push it aside, not deny it, not oppress it, not suppress it, not repress it, not belittle it, but understand it so we can be free of it, so that it doesn't steal our lives. And this is where yoga is so important, because as many of us know, it feels like trauma lives in the body. I remember the very first time in a yoga class that I lay down in Shavasana. It was a great class. I don't remember what asanas we had done. This was back when I was in college. It was a great class. I felt great. Then he has us lie down in Shavasana. And suddenly, I couldn't stop sobbing. And it was just, I couldn't even breathe. I was crying so hard. And it was so interesting. And of course, he had seen it, the teacher had seen it a lot, because when you're a yoga teacher and you work with humans, well, humans go through things. And we hold it in what we think is the body. And I'm gonna kind of cut through that myth in a moment. But we feel like we hold it in the body. And so when you work with the body, all kinds of things come out. Hence, bursting into tears in Shavasana. And I kept saying to him, I don't know what's going on. And he kept saying, it doesn't matter. Just let it through. You're releasing it. Just let it through. And as the years went by, as my yoga practice increased, I would hear him say things like, we would be working on hip openings one day or shoulder openings one day. And he would always joke that on the days that we did hip openings or shoulder work, that he needed to leave the room just at the exact moment, just before class ended, like, okay, class is over, final mantra, but before people actually open their eyes and start standing and moving around, that he needed to get out because everyone was angry. That the minute that you work with hip openings, shoulder openings, that there are just parts of our body, the more you work with bodies, that we come to understand, get people opening up their hips, they're going to get angry. We're storing stuff. Get them doing twists, get them working with shoulders, they're going to get angry. It's a release. But here's on a much, much deeper level where I wanted to take you. I heard recently somebody told me a very interesting, it was given as a piece of trivia, but to me it was so deep. If someone is under anesthesia, if someone goes under anesthesia for, Anything ranging from a routine colonoscopy to an operation and anything in between. But you get somebody under general proper anesthesia. No matter how tight their muscles may be, you can actually fold their body in half. Those of us who do asanas, think Paschimottanasana, all the way face in your legs. And when they come out of the anesthesia, they will have no soreness, they will have no pain, they will obviously have no recollection they did it. But it's not like they're going to come out, oh my God, I'm so sore, my body was stretched. And that made me realize what I already had known, but on such a powerful level, which is it's not actually the body that stores it. It's the mind. It's the way that the mind relates to the body, because if that body is under anesthesia, and you can literally fold us like a sandwich, well, it means the problem is not the hamstrings. Or in the same way, if someone were on drugs, drug of choice, whatever it may be, doesn't matter, but chemically change them in some way. Then you give them hip openings, then you give them shoulder openings, then you put them in shavasana. They're not going to have the same reaction. And what that means is that the issue is not in the body. The issue is in the mind and how it relates to the body. Because the body keeps changing. By the time I sat at the age of 25 in Rishikesh, on the banks of Ganga, which, as I mentioned yesterday, was not a trip that I had taken even on a spiritual quest. I was a reluctant goer to of India who had agreed to go just because I was a strict vegetarian and knew that I would at least be able to eat happily on this particular adventure. I was an avid traveler. I loved to travel. Had traveled a lot in Europe and England, across the US and South America. Didn't know anything about India. Was not consciously seeking or searching. But agreed to go because I knew, well, at least I won't struggle with waiters and chefs in languages that I don't speak about, chicken broth in the vegetable soup or eggs in my vegetables or, God knows what else. Get to Rishikesh, and as I shared yesterday, had this extraordinary experience of being in the presence of the divine. Wasn't looking for it. I went to stand on the banks of this beautiful river, a river I didn't even know was holy, the Ganges River, but I didn't know this is a river worshipped as the mother goddess. And as I stood there and looked out, I was gifted with this experience of being in the presence of the divine. An all-pervasive presence of the divine. There was nothing I saw that wasn't divine. Began as I looked out over the river. But then as I turned my head and I looked at telephone poles or trees or families or kids or marble steps, it was all divine. And then as I turned that vision inward, for the first time in my 25 years, I realized, oh my God, I'm not broken. I'm not wrong. I'm not a mess. I'm not a victim. I'm not these labels. I am whole. I am full. I am divine. I am inseparable from this divine presence. Fast forwarding about 7 to 10 days, it's a beautiful story, but I don't want to take up all our time in the story. Fast forward about 7 to 10 days, and I find myself sitting in front of one of India's most beloved, renowned, revered spiritual masters, who would later become my guru. And I asked him about fear. Everybody asked him questions. Finally, the moment arose that there was spaciousness and I could ask mine. And I lived in a state of pretty constant stress. Not terror, but just the kind of low-grade anxiety all the time. And I didn't take it actually too seriously because kind of everybody I knew lived like that. You know, you grow up in Los Angeles in a highly successful environment, and everybody's stressed, and everybody's running, and everybody's worried, and everybody's anxious, and oh my God this, and oh my God that. But I kept feeling like there must be something else. And so I asked him about that fear. And he looked at me and he said, "You fear because you don't trust." And I handed him my story. Here's my story. Here's why I don't trust. Here's my trauma. Here's what I've been through. And it's a good story. It was a story that up until that moment had essentially excused me from all of the other ways that I was not stepping up to the plate of my life. Yes, sure, I was a stellar academic, but I was living in a state of dis-ease. I had been in and out of hospital suffering from severe bulimia. I was suffering from depression. I was in a very, very diseased state of mind. And I give him my story. Here's my story. Here's the abuse that I went through in my early childhood. Here's the abandonment I went through in my early childhood. Here's what was done to me. And here's the ramifications of it. And it was a story, as I said, up until that moment that had gotten me just a lot of sympathy. It was a sort of, oh, you know, you poor thing, you poor thing, you poor thing, it's okay. And kind of anything I did was seen as a bonus. Like, oh my God, she graduated from Stanford, wow, and in the midst of this. Oh my God, she's getting a PhD, and in the midst of this. So there was never a moment where I was called to let go of anything, step up to anything, because I had this perfect story, perfect excuse. And he looks at me and he says, "Are you going to take that to the grave?" I was 25. I said, no, of course not. He says, "So are you going to let it go on your deathbed?" I said, no. He says, "Maybe a week before you die? Maybe a month before you die?" And I said, "No, God, Swamiji, no, of course not. You know, I'm working. I'm in process. I'm in process. In the West, we love our process. It's like the motto, the subtitle of kind of Western psychology is in process. I said, "I'm in process." And he looks at me and he says, "You are waiting for someone to draw the line. You are waiting for someone to come in and say you can be done." He said, "No one will. You can carry this pain, this anguish, this story to your grave. You can let it go on your deathbed, or you can let it go tonight." And I was like, "Tonight? What do you mean tonight?" There's a process. And he says, "Yeah, tonight. We have this beautiful ceremony called the Arati, this beautiful ceremony of light." And he said, "And I want you to come and be part of it, and we offer the light." And he said, "And then I want you to go and stand in Ganga. And I want you to offer all of your pain. all of your anger to the sacred river. And I spent most of that day, it's embarrassing to admit now 30 years later, but I believe in full transparency. So in service of full transparency, I spent much of the rest of the day kind of mocking the idea. There's an arrogance, there's an ego that arises with those of us who are what I call overeducated, where we've spent so much time in classrooms, reading books, taking exams that we get good grades on, accumulating degrees and titles and accolades and whatnot, that we actually start thinking we know something. And it's a very dangerous place to be in. Because that illusion of knowing something prevents us from actually learning what we are meant to learn. And I was in that state. And I spent most of the day kind of mocking the instruction, thinking, oh, isn't that sweet? Isn't that quaint? Like, just give it to the river, as though somehow childhood abuse and abandonment and eating disorders and addiction and depression and, mental health issues, that you could just somehow give them to a river. And isn't that sweet? And thank God that I live somewhere where we understand process. And in a moment that I will be forever beyond grateful for, sometime late afternoon, early evening, I had a moment of humility. And I had a moment in which I said, okay, obviously this isn't going to work. And yet, out of respect for the being who suggested it to you, a being who is one of the most revered spiritual leaders of the world, out of the fact that you have traveled thousands of miles to be here and you have no idea why you came, out of just respect for the moment, be sincere. And that was the highest standard I held myself to, was just sincerity. I was sure it wasn't going to work, but I committed that I would stop mocking it and that I would be open, I would be willing, I would be sincere. And that is what the universe wants of us. Our openness, our willingness, our sincerity. And that's all it takes. Yesterday, Stuart asked in the conversation that I did with Swami Sarvapriyanandaji, we can't all come to the Himalayas. Do we need to do that for this transformation? And I said, of course not. It's not about a shift of the body, it's about a shift of the mind. But it requires a willingness and an openness to let go of the story that my mind is telling me about who I think I am, what I think I need, what I think is wrong with me. And it works. It works. 29 years ago in September, I stood in the waters of Mother Ganga and I offered her the pain and I offered her the anger. And she took it. And I want to share today in a very tangible, take-home way with you all what that can mean for you in your lives, regardless of where you live and regardless of what kind of trauma you have been through or are currently going through. And one of the ways that I love to teach, especially things like this, to make it memorable, is to give an acronym of something that we remember. And our acronym today is AWAKEN. And the A in awaken stands for acknowledge. Otherwise, you go home and you're like, I know there were a lot of parts, but what were they? So this will help you remember them all. So the A stands for acknowledge. We must acknowledge what we have been through. Not comparing it to others, not saying, oh, well, my trauma is not really, as bad as what she went through, therefore I don't deserve to be in pain. Acknowledge what you have been through. See it. Create space for it. Don't run from it. But here's the key. Stop telling a story. So acknowledgement is truly being in the present moment with what arises. Is there anger? Is there fear? Is there pain? Is there longing? We acknowledge it, we see it. But don't tell a story about it. Because what the mind loves to do is there is anger arising, and the mind goes, how dare he? There is pain arising. The mind says, it's not fair. I should have not been treated like this. And the mind gets into a story. And that story traps you. I'm going to say that again. This is a take home. Your story traps you. Because the story keeps you stuck in it. I grew up in Hollywood, and I can tell you that every actor and actress, even the most professional, amazing ones, the moment the director says cut, they're out of character. They know. I'm not the story. You never, ever, ever hear of an actor or actress who plays some horrible murderer in a TV show or a movie or a drama who actually goes home and kills their family because they forgot. They forgot to get out of character. Never happens. There is an intuitive awareness and memory. I am the actor. This is a role I am playing. In the same way, that story is part of the role, part of your karmic journey, part of just the role that has been handed to your body in this particular reincarnation on earth. Your soul's birth and rebirth in different bodies, different stories, different karmic journeys. But it isn't you. So when I say acknowledge, see the emotion. Don't push it away. Don't eat it away. Don't drink it away. Don't smoke it away. Don't sex it away. Don't shop it away. Don't scroll it away. Acknowledge it. Be present with it. See it. But don't tell a story. So it looks just like, anger. Just that, anger. Or fear. Just see it. Acknowledge it. And that takes us to the W, which is witness the shift. Because here's what happens when you are present with pure emotion. It changes very, very quickly. If you can keep the mind from grabbing onto a story, the emotion changes. If you've lost a loved one, if the trauma that you are working with is the trauma of losing a loved one, it's a very potent example because we are overcome with grief, but the mind gets into all kinds of stories. It's not fair. How dare they? Whatever the story may be, I won't make it on my own. But if you are simply present with the grief, what you'll notice is very, very quickly, It shifts. And then there's actually joy as you realize that person is still with you. And then maybe there's anger. How dare they not wear their seatbelt? How dare they eat so many French fries? How dare... And then it shifts into maybe laughter. You remember a moment. And it keeps shifting and it keeps shifting. The nature of emotion is it is like a wave on the ocean. It comes, it rises, it peaks, and it recedes. The reason we get stuck is the stories in the mind. So we acknowledge, but then we witness it shifting. Anger. Love. Because you realize how much love. Pain. Laughter. And this is true regardless of what the trauma is. The emotions will shift. So just witness them shifting. And that takes us to the third letter, the second A, which is awareness is not the wound. You are the one aware of the emotion, aware of the pain, aware of the shifting nature of it, which means you are not the pain. You are not the anger. You are not the story. As Swamiji was saying yesterday, you are not the dustbin. You see the dustbin. So you can't be the dustbin. If I am able to point to something, to label it, to see it, to acknowledge it, well, that makes it the object. I am the subject. I am the knower of that object. I am the one noticing. Anger. Love. Joy. Fear. So I am not that. I am the awareness. And now here's what's really important when we deal with severe trauma, and especially its ramifications into addiction, into mental health issues. Witnessing is not dissociation. When you have been severely traumatized, especially as a child, one of the ways that young children cope with severe trauma is through something called dissociation. We split off. A body is being abused. I am in the clouds, in the playground, in the land of Oz, in somewhere. And we split. And later in life, it's very functional to allow a child to be severely harmed and traumatized while holding on to a sense of self. It's a survival mechanism. But later in life, it becomes a major hurdle. And we end up integrating. That's the work is integration. When I'm speaking about witnessing, I'm not advocating dissociation. I'm not saying split from it. What I'm saying is recognize that it never was you. You are the one aware. You are and you have always been separate from the trauma itself, the one who was traumatized, and the repercussions of the trauma. You are the one aware of it today and at that moment. So it is an awareness of actually who you are. And that takes us into K, which is the know yourself. And that's a very deep and beautiful process. Who are you who was not abused? When I stood in front of my guru at the age of 25 and told him the story of my childhood abuse, There was not one cell of my body that had been abused. I told the story as in, this is what happened to me. To me, I was abused. And yet, if he had said to me, show me the one who was abused, I couldn't have done it. Every single cell of our body regenerates. The skin cells regenerate every few days. They slough off, you get new ones. It's why the science of forensics is so good, because we literally, everywhere we go, we're like just leaving our skin cells everywhere. Get some, forensic scientists up here when I walk off the stage, and I could deny that I was on that stage all I want. And they'd be plucking my, skin cells off from everywhere. We shed them constantly. The skin is constantly regenerating. The blood, the organs even. Our internal organs, it's not every few days, it's more like every 7-8 years. But within 7, 8, 9 years, there's not one cell in your body that is the same. And so if the source of your trauma took place more than 7 or 8 years ago, you cannot show me the being who was harmed. And what that means is, who is the you who was not harmed then? And that is perhaps one of the most, if not the most, powerful and important questions to ask yourself. And don't immediately just jump into an answer that you've heard, oh, I am soul, I am Brahman. It might get you an A on an exam, but it's not going to change your life. And as someone who spent her entire academic life getting A's on exams while I was personally miserable and suffering, I can tell you that no matter how many questions you get right on an exam, it has nothing to do with actually knowing how to live. So don't immediately try to answer the question. Just allow the question to percolate in you. Who are you that wasn't traumatized? Who's that you? Who is it that isn't the story? Who is it that isn't angry? Who is it that isn't afraid? Who is it that wasn't harmed? And allow that question. That's the who am I? This takes us, of course, into, Shankaracharyaji's beautiful ko-hum, so-hum. Who am I? I am that. Meditation. And it's a very powerful meditation. We'll actually end today with it. But allow yourself as you meditate to really allow that. And if you're in the questioning state, allow it to be ko-hum. Who am I? And then you can do some meditations with the answer. So-hum. I am that. The capital T that. The unchanging that. The infinite that. You're not your story. And then E. E is embrace forgiveness. And this is key. When I was sent into the Ganga to let go of the anger and pain, the peace that my guru gave me was, he said, you must forgive him. Forgive him? Well, what he did was unforgivable. How do you forgive? And this is what I was speaking about. No, maybe it wasn't yesterday. Maybe it was the day before in Satsang. Anyway, it's a topic that comes up a lot. It's critically important. It's something I'm deeply passionate about. We forgive not because what someone did is okay. Many times what people do is unequivocally unforgivable. Morally, ethically, spiritually, legally even. But no matter what someone has done to us, our birthright, if you are here in a human body, your birthright is to be free. It is why we've taken human birth. According to our scriptures, the reason that the human birth is seen as the pinnacle of evolution, because we're certainly not the nicest species. Anybody who's ever had a pet or spent time with animals knows actually how much nicer they are. Even just studying animals. I mean, unless, there's not even an animal species I can think of who harms another for any reason other than to eat or to protect themselves or their babies. An animal isn't going to harm you just to harm you. They're going to harm you if they feel threatened or if they need to eat you and they are hungry. We are the only species that actually harms, because as they say in Hindi, man mange more, more, more. We want more and more and more. And so we keep harming the planet, harming each other. But we forgive because it is our birthright. Humans are the pinnacle of evolution because we are said to be the only species that can actually attain ultimate freedom, ultimate liberation, what we call moksha. So never let anyone else's arrogance, ego, fear, illusion, violence steal your birthright. So you forgive. I stood in that river praying and crying, praying and crying, praying and crying for God knows how long, until I could see his face and forgive. And that is the key. We forgive because we deserve to be free. Holding on to pain is literally like saying, okay, you harmed me. Therefore, I am now going to lay my most precious aspect of life, my freedom, my joy, my peace, on the altar of your wrongful acts. Why would you do that? What kind of insanity? Right? We all do it though. But it's insane. It's like somebody is violent. They're wrong. They're living in ego. They're living in illusion. They're living in unskillfulness. And so we voluntarily hand them the rest of our lives. Every possibility we have for joy, for peace, for enlightenment, for freedom. But forgiveness is the only way out. So you forgive, which does not mean that you are absolving them of what they did. You forgive only because you deserve to be free. And then the last part is N, which stands for a new narrative, a new story. Write your new story. Who are you other than the one who's been traumatized? Write this story. Yes, on the core, deepest, highest, truest level, you are soul, you are Brahman. But what does that mean in your life? What does that mean about you as a mother or a father or a person in the workplace or as a yogi or as a yogini or as a friend or as a spouse? As just a being in a human body, navigating your way through your karmic journey. What does that mean about you? Write a new narrative. We only have a few minutes left. I thought we had tons of time left. I have no idea where it all went, but we have just a couple of minutes left, and I really do want to have a chance to open it up for any questions that anyone has. I'm sorry? We have no time. Oh, I do have more time. Oh, lovely. Lovely, lovely. So the 5-minute warning was just a trick. Okay, great. Because I was thinking, really? It does happen. I lose track of time all the time, but 45 minutes. Lovely, lovely. See, we have manifested abundance. This is manifestation. As you live in that which already is, and there it is. Lovely. Okay. So we have tons of time. So we're going to open it up for questions, and then we will conclude with a meditation. But yes, any questions that anyone has. As I always say, there's no such thing as wrong questions or silly questions or anything like that. Yes. Do we have cordless mics by any chance? If not, just speak loudly and I will repeat your question. Oh, we do have a cordless mic. Lovely. That's okay. In the meantime, just speak loudly. I'll repeat it. Okay.
Is there any way that you can help others through trauma?
Great question. Is there any way you can help others through trauma? Absolutely. First, I'm going to give you the do nots.
Is this the number 2?
And then the do's. Do not tell them it's okay. We do that. We mean well, oh, it's okay, it's okay. Has anyone ever said, oh, thanks. Now I get it. Don't tell them it's okay. If it were okay, they would not be in pain. The fact that you think it's okay is an utter irrelevancy. In their felt sense experience, it is not okay. So do not say it is okay. The very best thing that you can do to help somebody through is to hold the space for them to come into the fullness of who they are. Do not keep supporting the story. So you'll notice what my guru did. He did not say, oh my God, that's awful. Wow, that's horrible. Let's find this man and, hunt him down and get some revenge. What he did was, he didn't belittle me. He didn't say, oh, that's not such a big deal. What he did was hold the space for me to recognize that there was an option from carrying that pain. From carrying that pain. Hold the space in which they can find and experience a part of themselves that is not traumatized, and reflect that back to them. Love them. Do not be invested in their story. One of the greatest mistakes that people in relationship with those who have been traumatized do is we get ourselves wrapped up in their story. And then they have to hold on to the story because otherwise if they let go of the story, it threatens the relationship. You get into a caregiver and care needing dynamic, and if suddenly I'm healed, well then it threatens the whole relationship. Do not invest yourself as a caregiver. This is the whole codependency situation. Do your work. If you've got an investment in being the savior, the caregiver, do your own work so that they can heal without it threatening you in your relationship. And just be present. Don't run away from their pain. One of the reasons we say to people, it's okay, is because we are so uncomfortable being in the presence of pain. Someone else's pain triggers me. And so I need to dry their tears and, make them okay, because otherwise I'm triggered. Do your work so that you can sit with someone in their pain without trying to fix them, without telling them it's okay, holding the space in which their pain will alchemically transform into presence because you are sitting with them in presence without it threatening you. Yes. We do have a cordless mic, yes.
Thank you so much.
Of
I was
course.
in Rishikesh in April, and I was transported back there when you were talking about how you felt as you entered Mother Ganga. It feels like she just gives you a hug, and that was my experience. And so I really appreciate you telling that story. My question is, so we all know that the body keeps the score ultimately, and I think that I totally agree with everything you've said, but one has to come to a bodily platform before you can come to a spiritual platform. And so I just wondered, I've experienced somatic release through breath work, but what would you recommend in terms of yoga practice? And I mean specifically asana. I mean, I teach yin, and I find yin is quite effective with this stuff, but are there any practical tips you might give?
Yeah, great question. So absolutely, we need to come through the body. This is why where I began in talking about the 8 limbs of yoga, without going into them in incredible depth, they move. Yam, niyam is how we are in the world. Asana, in my body. Pranayam, with my breath. We move from the body, then into the breath, then pratyahar, then dharan, then dhyan, then samadhi. We absolutely begin with our bodies. What I would say is, what I learned was that my body was a safe place. And it doesn't matter what style of asana you're doing, but ensuring that you are having the experience of your body being a safe place. It's like the beautiful Yoga Sutra, Sthira Sukham Asanam. That which brings joy and stability is asana. But it doesn't just mean in the asana itself. It means through that practice, it brings stability and joy in my life. Things like just tadasana. When we've been traumatized, being still is very difficult. And so while the flow types of asana practices, all of them that move you quickly from one posture to another, are beautiful and wonderful in so many ways, there's a real important benefit of actually holding asana still. And so I would recommend doing both. If you have a practice that is mostly a flow practice, make sure that you also, at least once a week, get into a practice that is much more holding an asana. 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 2 minutes. Recognize that the body is safe. You don't have to rush out of this moment into the next moment. I actually can stay here in Tadasana, in Trikonasana, in just a simple asana. And I don't have to rush out of it. Because I'm safe. I'm safe right here in the body. On a very specific level as well, when I used to walk into yoga class all completely frazzled and upset, my yoga teacher was brilliant. I mean, just beyond brilliant. He would take one look in my eyes. I didn't have to tell him I've spent the day throwing up or he would take one look in my eyes and he knew exactly mentally where I was. And would be having a class doing whatever the class was doing and was working with different people individually, separately as well. And he would always have me, in those days, in those moments, doing lots and lots and lots of back bends. If you're working with depression, if you're working with fear, back bends, anything that's opening the chest is incredibly powerful. He would literally just have me in front of him, stick 2 hands into my back. Now, of course, physically I was limber enough to do this. I mean, don't do this with somebody who's not. You don't want to hurt somebody. But put 2 fingers in my back. He was holding me, but lightly, and literally push me back down into a drop back and pull me up, and push me down and pull me up. And each time he'd look in my eyes and wait until he saw a shift in my eyes. And eventually he'd say, okay, I was done, I could go on to the next. He'd put me in chair back bends, hanging over the chair for 5-10 minutes. Head resting on a bolster so you don't get too, lightheaded. But things that are opening the chest, things that are expanding us, because fear causes us to contract. And so postures that are expansive, but it's really about using the asana to recognize that the body is a safe place. And in that way, whatever asana you use is fantastic. Breath work, wonderful. Any kind of body work, absolutely, but you've got to be careful. You've got to be careful. I was not able to get on a massage table for a really long time. I mean, because the last thing you want to do is re-traumatize yourself. And so if you're going to use body work in which you are in someone else's hands, just make sure it's someone who knows how to work with someone who's recovering from trauma. With their words, with their hands, with the way that they treat. So yeah, somatic therapy is fantastic. It's amazing. You just want to be careful about, who you're letting do it so that your body stays a safe place. Yeah, wonderful. Other questions? Yes, in the back. Can you stand up? Then they can see you. Yes.
Is it center aisle?
Sorry.
Maybe what would be easier is anyone who has a question, what if you just kind of make your way into the center aisle, then rather than her having to run around handing the mic can just be here. Yes.
Does the same theory work to get yourself free of current traumas, even like traumas in hand?
Absolutely. And in fact, dealing with current traumas is much easier because they haven't yet had a chance to solidify in your nervous system. When you are in a current situation of trauma, it's the same. Number 1, acknowledge. I am in a situation that is challenging, that is traumatic. See it, notice it. Notice that it shifts. Again, we're witnessing the shift. Even in trauma, there are moments of joy. There are moments of love. It's not that I'm constantly in a state of an unchanging inner emotional world. My inner emotional situation is changing. Outer situation may stay the same. But I'm acknowledging my inner world. I'm acknowledging that it's changing. I'm acknowledging that I am the one who is aware. I'm seeing it. But here's what you have in a current situation that those of us who suffered past trauma don't have, is you actually have the power to possibly change the current situation. We now, in retrospect, work with asanas, we work with the breath, we work with meditation, we work with our lives to regain agency, autonomy in our lives that we didn't have at that time. But if something's going on currently, can you harness your agency, your autonomy in this moment to actually change the situation? And if not, change how you relate to it. Yeah, wonderful. Yes.
Thank you, Sadhviji. Brilliant talk, as always. I'd like to ask, when emotional trauma becomes physical trauma and the body stores that, how do you unpick that? How do you decode that emotional trauma if you're not necessarily aware of what that original trauma was?
So, as we've been talking, the body holds on. And this is where a gentle working with the body. So, as my yoga teacher was saying, yeah, whenever we do twists or hip openers or shoulder openers, everybody's angry, I got to clear the room. You don't necessarily need to know what you're angry about. And I would actually recommend not going there, because the truth is it doesn't matter. Not everything has to be dissected, but you notice it. Anger. Can you let it go? Can you exhale as you work through the body? So let's say, for example, you're holding it in your hamstrings. Just for example, holding it in your hamstrings, or you're holding it in your calves. And so you're doing certain yoga postures that are stretching them. And the mind is, can you exhale? Let go. With each exhalation, a little deeper, you're able to stretch it. You're able to let it go. You're able to let it go. Trust someone to help you work through it, a gentle massage. If tears come, they come. It's okay. Let someone, again, whom you trust, gentle. They'll work through that part of your body. As your aim is just exhale and let go. Exhale and let go, yeah. Tears may come. Images may come. Don't give the mind the job of finding the story. We're just letting go of the emotion that is being held there. And if you can do it with very deep, slow breaths, and keep the breath low in your abdomen, there's a very powerful energy center, a chakra, called the Svadhyaya chakra, that's just a couple inches below your belly button. And in Sanskrit, Svadhyaya literally means the place of the self. The place of the self. It's what in the teachings of Tai Chi and a lot of the Chinese energy systems that's called the lower Dantian. But there's a reason that both the Indian ancient systems and the Chinese ancient systems of yoga, meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong, that they're all talking about the same place of that core energy. Allow the breath to be here. Stay anchored in your core of the self, and allow the muscles to work. Some of it you should do, because that gives you agency and autonomy. You are the one who decides how deep the stretch. And some of it you should allow someone else to do, to allow yourself to realize the universe is a safe place. I don't have to contract. And as you're doing it, let the breath be low and slow and deep. It will rewire the nervous system. That now this part of the body, this stretch, this muscle group is no longer associated with trauma. Now I associate it with freedom. Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you, Sadhviji, for being there for us. I have two questions. One is, when there is no love in you, how do you generate love?
When there is no love in you, how do you generate love? First of all, I promise you there is love in you. I do not buy the premise. But when we have been harmed, we contract. Loving feels dangerous, and so we shut ourselves down to protect ourselves. Do not worry about generating love. Worry about removing those obstacles, right? There's a beautiful Rumi quotation about this. I don't remember it word for word, but it's literally something like that. Don't worry about finding, creating the love. Worry about removing the obstacles in you to the love. Figure out, why am I contracted? And how can I let go? And what you will find is there is so much love in you, but you are not allowing yourself to feel it. And so you need to let yourself know that it's safe to love. What is your name?
Anita.
Okay. After this session, we're going to have a big group hug for Anita. All right, anybody who wants to take part, we'll have a big group hug. And you're going to feel the love into you. And all your job is, don't think about giving love back. Just think about allowing yourself to let the love enter. Allow yourself to expand into it. Okay? Yes.
I do understand I get love, but there's no love to give back.
I promise you. I promise you. Bear with me. Trust me. Trust me on this. There is yet to be a human being, barring the contracted aspect of ourselves due to trauma, who cannot love. We have people who are born without sight, people who are born without hearing, people who are born without limbs, people who are born with all sorts of physical challenges. I have never yet heard of a being born unable to love. But we get harmed, we get traumatized, and the ego creates a wall around it. And this is where courage is required. It's scary. But you must, absolutely must, allow yourself to open. Will you get hurt again? Probably. It's part of the package deal of loving as a human being. But if you don't open yourself up, you will suffocate to death. Okay? Good.
Hello. Nice to meet you. If you've suffered multiple severe traumas in a lifetime, so from childhood...
Don't go away, Anita. Stay. We've got a group hug coming up.
So if you've suffered multiple traumas in your lifetime from not just being a child, but also as an adult as well, so 3 times, how do you, and current trauma too, right? So it's happening in the moment.
Yeah.
It gets triggering and you respond,
course.
you go back to...
Yeah.
How do you manage, because there's a practice, which is fine, but consistency is difficult in a modern world with a job and all of those things. But I'm wondering if there's a way that, how can I respond, not respond, but just cope with that without receiving the trauma in that moment?
Great question. First of all, recognize that the universe is going to keep putting you back in the same situation until you heal from it. So if you notice in your life that the same patterns keep arising, patterns of trauma, patterns of harm, ask yourself, what have I not yet healed from the original wound? Because I'll tell you a secret. The universe's ultimate goal is not that you breeze through life. The universe's ultimate goal is that you wake up. And I mean that not in the current kind of charged way, but in the deepest way of truly into the truth of who you are. That's the universe's agenda, and it's going to do whatever it needs to do to get us to heal, to awaken. And so if you've got early trauma that hasn't been healed, the universe is going to keep sending you opportunities to heal that. So the best way to A, heal current trauma, and B, prevent it from happening in the future, is to really look at the core wound and to see what parts of healing are left and to do that work. But the other piece is, as we were speaking about earlier, now you have agency and autonomy. Can you get yourself out of the situation? As kids, we don't have a choice. We don't have that ability. I, on a personal level, as a young child in the situation in which I was abused, I couldn't get out. But now as adults, can you change the situation? Not always, I know. But a lot of times we say things like, well, I need this job because. Or I need to be in this family situation because. And I would really challenge you about that because. Ask yourself. Because either you need to change the outer situation or you need to change your inner way of dealing with it. You being miserable is not a satisfactory solution. So either change the outer situation or change how you're responding to it. In an ideal world, changing the inner world is the best, because then you have the freedom to be wherever you need to be and you are not triggered. But, you know, yesterday Swamiji was talking about saplings in the beginning, and they need, you know, a kind of tree guard around them. We do a lot of tree plantations. And yeah, in the beginning, dogs and monkeys and cows and all sorts of animals will eat the sapling. So you need to put a tree guard around it. And then in India, of course, we noticed that the metal tree guards we put were getting stolen for scrap metal. So then we needed to hire guards for the tree guards. So there's a lot of guarding that needs to happen for a little sapling. But once the tree is grown, the monkey can swing from its branches, the dog and the cow can come and, you know, pee on it or lie in its shade or bump up against it or do whatever they want to do. And so you're going to have to see in terms of your internal healing of the original wound, where are you in the journey from sapling to tree? Mm-hmm. If you're in a sapling state, try to change the external situation. But don't stay there forever. Realize that ultimately the goal is to move from sapling to tree. And when you're a tree, then, yeah, the world comes, swings from your branches, pees on you, whatever it does. But you're okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience. It's absolutely wonderful, very healing. My question to you is, are you able to draw a distinction and a parallel between yoga and therapy?
So, as someone who has spent many years of her life on the receiving end, the studying end, and the giving end of actual official therapy for the first 25 years of my life, and then who has spent the last 30 years of my life in the spiritual yogic side, I actually think they're both necessary. If you were blessed to be born and raised in a family of basically enlightened people, or very deeply spiritual people, who were not projecting their neuroses onto you, who were not making you feel like you were something other than divinity and perfection and wholeness, if you grew up in any situation in which you feel like you are, your value, your worthiness is based upon what you do, what you look like, how you achieve, anything like that, you're going to need both. If you were blessed to be born in this beautifully enlightened environment and seen and honored and celebrated as a full divine being, you might be able to get away with just a spiritual and yoga practice. Because then all you're doing is clearing the kind of run-of-the-mill generic ignorance that the human mind has. But if you've got issues that are unique, that were projected upon you, that you've internalized from your family of origin or environment of origin, therapy is incredibly helpful. The dilemma with it is, it takes us into our darkness. When I got to India at 25, I had spent many, many, many years in therapy. And then again, I was getting a PhD in psychology, so I was studying it, I was giving it. I could write a book about my darkness. I could write a book about why I was bulimic. Didn't change the situation. There was not an inch of freedom I got from the pain, from the suffering, from the fear, from the addiction, from the depression, due to my insight and awareness and ability to explain to you why I suffered the way I did. That's what I needed spirituality for. Spirituality said, yeah, there's all this darkness, and you understand it perfectly. Now get out of it. Now look for the light switch, because there is a light switch. And the point is not sit around in the darkness. The point is not to become masters of our darkness. We need to look at it first, because otherwise it bites us in the rear end over and over and over again because we are unconscious. So you've got to know what it is. But then you need to get out of it. And so they're both really important.
Great, makes sense. Thank you.
Hi, I'm not sure what my question is, but I just want to explain my difficulty. I am a mother of a girl who died of cancer a short while ago. And I struggle with the letting go because I feel if I let go, then that absolves me of the guilt that I feel over everything that happened to her. And if I let go and become happy, then that means it was all okay, and it's not okay.
Yeah.
And that's where I intellectualize things, and I think it's okay. I can find joy in knowing that she was my girl.
Yeah.
And on a good day when I'm here, I can really, that's okay.
Yeah.
I can let the tears flow. But away from here at home, she's not there. She's here, but she's not there.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to let it go and still hold her.
Okay, beautiful. First of all, you don't have to let it go. This goes back to the question around helping someone through trauma. Don't let go of her. She is here. To let go of her or let go of the hole in you in the absence of her physical being is absolutely a disservice, a betrayal on some level to who she is. You'll notice I didn't say was, is. Stop thinking about letting go of her. What you're letting go of is the paralysis of not being able to move forward. There is nothing about moving forward that is a betrayal to her. She brought you joy. To live in pain is a betrayal of her. Because what you're saying is every bit of joy she brought me is inaccessible to me. It died with her body. And that is not true. And if you prevent yourself from feeling pain, you are betraying the ever-present joy of her life. And so allow yourself to feel the joy and the pain. As I began, there are waves. There will be utter anguish that feels like your heart is going to stop. But if you don't get into a story and it doesn't become, it's not fair, it's my fault, and you just allow yourself to be present in the tears, in a moment there will be joy. Because she is joy, and your felt sense experience of her is joy. And to deny the joy is to deny her. So you allow the pain when it's there, and then when it morphs for 30 seconds or 30 minutes into a feeling of joy, you allow that, and you allow yourself to feel her here still with you. Because it wasn't just her body you loved. The body is no longer here. But her body changed shape so many times in the years that she was with you. You loved her as a newborn infant, and you loved her in the body that she passed away in, and in every single body along the way. And her body has now simply taken a new form. And it's a form that cannot be seen with these eyes. But she is still here because she never was the body to begin with. And for you to live only in anguish is saying she was the body, now the body is gone, she is gone. And you know that isn't true, and that's why it's so hard, because it's a denial of what you know to be true, which is she's here because you can feel her. I know you can feel her. Stop pretending you can't feel her. And anybody who tells you that that's crazy and you need to let it go is someone who needs to be unfriended. We need to stop unfriending people based on, political parties or what they think about vaccinations or whatnot, and kind of allow a diversity. But you absolutely need to stop being with people who are projecting their experience of death onto you, and who are telling you, let it go, let it go. Of course you can feel her. Of course you can hear her. I'll bet you can even see her sometimes. I'll bet there are moments that you see her walk into a room. And that is real. And anyone who tells you it's not, those are the people you defriend.
Thank you. I'm lucky that I don't have people telling me that. It's more
Great.
me that tells me it.
Good.
You know what I
Defriend that part of your brain. Really? I'm serious. We all, I don't know if you were in the talk yesterday, but I was saying we have so many voices in our heads. Ask yourself, who told me that? Because it's obviously not true. So where did I pick up this idea that she was only her body? Where did I get that idea? Let it go. Let it go, let it go. The last thing you want to be doing, it's bad enough dealing with our own ignorance. The last thing we need to do is carry other people's ignorance in our mind. Right? What kind of baggage is that? Our own bags are heavy enough. Don't become, a bag woman of other people's baggage. At some point, you picked up the idea that we're only our bodies and that she's gone and you've got to let it go. That is a crock. It is not true. See it as untrue. And stop listening to it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a children's nurse, and I've been listening to the voices of all the children that have died that I've looked after, and children who live with chronic conditions. And what I want to ask is, how can we stop the trauma? Because we see these children from babies to 18, and I feel now, having sort of recognised this, that the things we do to these children are traumatising them, and you slowly start to see them disappear. And I just wondered if there's some other things.
Great question. And this is our responsibility. Raise your hand if you are a parent, a grandparent, a teacher, an aunt, an uncle, anybody who has anyone under the age of 20 in your sphere of impact or influence at all. Raise your hand. Great. Your responsibility is to deal with your own stuff. It is the very most important thing we can do. Because we're giving it to them. And a lot of times we do it unknowingly. How many times have we said to kids who clean up their room, oh, you are such a good girl, or a good boy, or the opposite. The room is messy despite being told 100 times, you are a bad boy or a girl, or you are lazy, or we make some pronouncement, good or bad, about who they are based on what they do. And what that does is it creates an entirely new generation of workaholics and people pleasers. Because we are growing with the awareness that my worthiness of love, I come home with a good report card, I get hugs, I get kisses, maybe I also get cookies, but I'm met with lots of love. I come home with a bad report card. I'm met with disappointment. as though somehow mom or dad's emotional state were my responsibility? How many times have we said to our kids, I am disappointed because of you? Don't put that on them. Your emotional state is not your kid's responsibility. You want to be disappointed? Be disappointed. You want to be happy? Be happy. Do not give them the job of being in charge of mom or dad's emotional state. But we do this, we do it unconsciously. And so we have to deal with our stuff. But also recognize you're human. And this is where, I see everybody kind of in this like, oh my God, I've messed up my kids feeling. This is where honesty is so important. You say to them, look, here's what I said, here's how I acted, and here's why it is untruth, and I am sorry. It's critical. So many of us dealing with trauma today, I began by saying, your healing is your responsibility. Nobody's going to come back and fix it for you. And yet, how many of us would love to hear, I'm sorry. It was my fault, from the one who harmed us. If you have the ability to recognize, even if it wasn't a major trauma and it was just saying you're a good boy for cleaning up your room, like a little bit of that, make it right in this moment, however old they are. It doesn't matter. I guarantee you they haven't stopped waiting for you to come around. Help them understand, I'm sorry, I was a kid, I was in my 20s, I was doing my best, I didn't mean to mess you up. Here's what I should have said. And if they're still young, change it. But let them see, because the reason that those early childhood experiences linger throughout our lives is because as young kids, we believe that the adults are all-knowing, they are omniscient, they are omnipotent. And so when they tell us we are lazy or worthless or good because of our deeds, we take that as canon. And we move through our lives believing it because they were the omniscient ones. And if you can go back and say, you know what? I had no idea. That idea I gave you was wrong, and I am so sorry. And I didn't know. It's the best thing you can do for them. It's also one of the best things you can do for you. So, yeah, as parents, as grandparents, as aunts, as uncles, as teachers, let us do our work so we don't project that onto them. Beautiful, thank you.
But can I ask too, if they are having traumatic interventions day after day after day, we say to them, we're sorry, we have to do this, but is there anything more we can do for them? Because they have no autonomy, they can't run away from these traumatic interventions.
Well, this is a longer discussion, and I've got a 2-minute sign in front of me. And we have a meditation and a group hug. But what I would say is, as adults with agency and autonomy, can we use it? We are not helpless. Can you intervene in some way? And I don't just mean in a professional setting, but you're walking down, you're walking in a grocery store, in a shopping center, down the street. Some parent is spanking a kid or slapping a kid or screaming at a kid. Intervene. Don't shame the parent, but intervene just with presence and love. Hey, looks like we've got you're having a hard time. Can I help? Hey, would you like a glass of water? Hey, why don't we take a walk? Help the child understand there's another way of being. Help the parent understand that they don't want to be doing this right now. Let them take a deep breath. Can we as adults change situations? Not all of them. But in the situations we can't change, help the kids understand they don't deserve it. That's key. They don't deserve it, and there will come a time in their life in which they have agency and autonomy. This too shall pass. And if you can do something, do it. Yeah. I want to let's just take one moment. Just take a minute and close your eyes. And just allow yourself to come into your body. Right here, right now. We're not the body, but we inhabit this body. And just allow yourself to come into the breath, that flow of sacred prana between you and the universe. Notice the way as you inhale that the universe nourishes and nurtures you. As the prana enters and it fills you. And as you exhale, allow yourself to let go. Let go of another story you tell. An identity you're holding on to. A false belief. A grudge. Exhale and let it go. Give it back to the universe. And then we inhale and are refilled with the sacred prana. Purity and power, eternity. The prana we are breathing in is the energy from the Big Bang. It's the energy that has existed since the beginning of time. Breathe it in. And on the exhalations, letting go of that which is not self, that which is not true. Exhale and let it go. And on the inhalations and exhalations for just a minute, add that sacred mantra of so hum. I am that. On the inhalations, just allow yourself to silently chant. So. And on the exhalations, chanting silently. Taking the inhalations and exhalations at your own pace. Letting go on the exhalations of that which is not self. And remembering on the inhalations that you are not separate from that sacred energy of existence, of consciousness, of bliss. Ever so gently, bring the palms of your hands together in chest level at Namaste. And gently rub the palms of your hands against each other. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes, feeling that sacred energy flowing in and through you of yourself. And ever so slowly, lower the hands and open the eyes. Thank you so much for being present in such presence and love today. Now we take it out into the world. Where is Anita, by the way? Anita, great. So just come here for right now. Can we, group hug first. Hold my hands. Thank you. Okay, I'm leading everybody, whoever wants to come, no compulsion, come. We are going to help Anita know and feel the love of who she is. Now you hold that. You hold that. See? One sec. I knew we had a final responsibility, but I wanted to just do the group hug first. Yes, of course.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. It's been wonderful to have you here. Really wonderful. A small token from us by way of thanks. And I hope that you'll come again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
I've loved it. I've just loved it so much. Definitely. Next year.
Great.
Thank you. Absolutely, absolutely. And for anybody who doesn't want to wait until next year, come to Rishikesh, come to Parmarth, come and be with us on the banks of Ganga. Absolutely, yes. We have a beautiful yoga festival there in March called International Yoga Festival. If you can come, fantastic. Otherwise, any of the other 51 weeks a year are also beautiful. So whenever you can come to the banks of Mother Ganga, we look so forward to having you there. Yes.
Thank you very much.